Hi, this is Drew Jones of Drew's Guitar Shop in Seattle, Washington, and this is a follow-up video to the video I did last week about doing a string ground on this guitar. This is a Taylor T5 C2. This is a guitar that has kind of a mixed electronic system. You can go back and watch the video for more detail on that. But basically what we needed to do here is we needed to ground an acoustic style bridge to the strings, and since the acoustic style bridge was entirely made of wood, we didn't really have a place to go. What we did was we installed this brass plate back here, which makes contact with the brass balls here on the strings, and that gives us our connection to ground, because we can then solder to that brass plate and do a chassis ground on the pickup. Fortunately, in this case, I was actually able to use normal electronic solder in this case to make these joints. This brass plate did have to be cleaned with some 220 grit sandpaper and then flux, and then the joint was made. And this pickup cover, fortunately, actually, after scoring it with a little bit of 220, did actually take normal electronic solder. I was a little afraid that, this might be made out of steel or some other material that would kind of resist a normal solder joint, but even if that were the case, we could have actually used some silver solder to make that joint, because silver solder will oftentimes bond with things that are resistant to solder joints. But there we have it. We have our ground wire, we have our string ground. And then the last thing that I did here was I put little drops of super glue kind of along the edge, so a little bit of super glue on the side and kind of pulling it over the piece of brass in order to hold this piece of brass in place. This brass is actually self-adhesive. It comes with some 3M double stick tape on the back, but I found that was kind of sliding around a little bit and I didn't like it. Thing is, I didn't also want to then strip that tape off and use super glue to adhere this entire thing, because I want this thing to be removable. And I also don't want it to be removable in such a way that you would have to take a soldering iron to this thing to completely kill the glue in the back, because this is a solid piece of brass, and that brass would be coming into contact with the soldering iron and then sitting on the back of this bridge plate. And so doing that, removing it that way, may actually scorch this bridge plate and cause permanent damage, which we don't want to do. So putting a little bit of super glue here at the edges does a couple of things. Number one, it holds the bridge plate in place, but it also is visible to whoever wants to get in here and work on this thing, and so they can look at that and go, oh, there's some super glue right there that I need to scrape off with a chisel, and then just pull this thing off, because the double stick tape is kind of easily removable. But yeah, this is the way that I would go about doing that, just because I don't want to, again, glue this thing solidly down, by coating the entire back of super glue or putting super glue under there, because that's going to make the joint much more complicated to undo. Anyway, this has been Drew Jones of Drew's Guitar Shop in Seattle, Washington. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Link it around to your friends. I get a lot of viewership that way. Also, in the description, there's a place where you can drop me some tips via my Ko-Fi or my Patreon or some other places that I've provided down there. You can also use those places to ask me questions about some projects that you're doing. That's a great way to get a hold of me for that service. I also have a link down there to my Reverb page where I sell some instruments, and also a link to my website where I have my pricing info, my contact info, as well as a page that I wrote up on caring for stringed instruments. And if you're watching this video, I'll bet you have some stringed instruments that you care for. Anyway, this has been Drew Jones of Drew's Guitar Shop in Seattle, Washington. Thank you for watching.